going on, you guys? Today I'm coming at you live with Fred. I'm going to review upper body joints that apply to massage therapists. Not every single little joint, but the major ones we need to know. All right, let's get started. Here, coming at a superior view, okay, you can see the sutures. Let me see if I can get my little pointer on it. Here are the sutures, okay? The sutures. Woo, I'm all over the place. That's what happens when you look through a camera lens. Okay, sutures. These are fibrous joints. Synthrotic. Okay, this is a synthrotic joint. There is a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of movement. Tiny amount. Okay, coming to the anterior skull, wrapping around laterally. Here we have the temporal, okay, temporal mandibular joint. So temporal mandibular joint. Okay, temporal mandibular joint. This is a modified hinge joint. It also has kind of like a sliding movement to it. Here we have the sternum and the clavicles. So let's come on in and zone in. Here we have the sternoclavicular joint. Sternoclavicular joint. Okay, so where the sternum and the clavicle articulate, the sternoclavicular joint. Okay, you will see this classified as both a saddle type of joint as well as a plain type of joint. This is an extremely strong joint. Okay, there's a lot of movement play here. Okay, working our way out laterally. We're going to follow that clavicle. Okay, and then here we have the acromion. Okay, we have the acromion clavicle. That is the acromioclavicular joint. Here's a superior view. Okay, inferior view right there. Okay, the acromioclavicular joint. This is a gliding joint. Here we have the glenoid cavity of the scapula and the head of the humerus. These articulate to make the glenohumeral joint. This is a ball and socket joint. Ball and socket joint. Okay, this is a diarthrotic joint. Here I'm looking at the antecubital space. Okay, right in here. I'm going to hone in for the radius and the ulna articulate. Here we have the proximal radial ulna joint. This is the pivot joint. Okay, working our way distally. Here we have the ulna and the radius articulating again. This is known as the distal radial ulna joint. Distal radial ulna joint. Okay, this is also a pivot joint. Next we have the radius here, okay, in the carpals. This is an ellipsoidal joint. This is the radial carpal joint. Okay, radial carpal joint. Okay, we are still looking at that anterior aspect of the forearm here. Just to review, we have the proximal radial ulna joint. It's a pivot joint. Distal radial ulna joint. It's a pivot joint. And the radial carpal joint. This is the wrist joint. It's an ellipsoidal joint. Okay, here I'm on the posterior side of the humerus here. Okay, we have the humerus and the ulna. These two bones articulate to make a hinge joint. This is called the humeral ulna joint. The humeral ulna joint. Here we have the humeral radial joint. Humeral radial joint. We're on the anterior aspect of Fred here. Okay, here we have the sternal costal joints. Sternal costal joints, these are synovial joints, gliding joints. Next we have the costal chondral joints. These are cartilaginous joints. Okay, costal chondral joints. Costal chondral joints. Okay, I'm looking at the posterior aspect of Fred here. Here we have C1 and C2. C1 is the atlas, C2 is the axis. Okay, the joint space between C1 and the occiput is known as the occipital atlanto joint. This is what do you think, an ellipsoidal joint. Okay, next we have the joint between C1 and C2. That is the atlantoaxial joint. This is a pivot joint. Coming on out here. Here we have the articulations of the vertebrae. These are known as facet joints or Z joints. That's short for zygapophyseal joint. Okay, these are gliding joints. Gliding joints. If we look on that anterior aspect of the scapula here, I'm coming in with that medial anterior view. Okay, that is known as the scapulothoracic joint. Scapulothoracic joint. Okay, and as you can see, here are the posterior side of the ribs. Posterior side of the ribs. Here, the costal tubercle articulates with the TVP. Okay, this is the costal transverse joint. Costal transverse joint. Okay, it's a gliding joint. And I'm going to come around lateral but superior. Okay, if you look through the ribs here, okay, my pointer doesn't reach in there, but here you can see, if you look real close on that lateral thoracic spine, okay, you can see where the rib articulates with that thoracic vertebrae. Those joints are known as your costal vertebral joints. Costal vertebral joints. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I will do a separate video on the joints of the lower body. Please like and hit the subscribe button. Say bye, Fred. Bye. Hello. It's almost Halloween. He might be Freddy Cougar. I don't know. We'll see. I got to talk to my partner in crime and see what she thinks we can do. What do you think? All right. Peace out. Thank you so much.